How do you know if someone is truly wrong for you, or if you're just afraid of getting close? This question confuses a lot of people in relationships. At the beginning, things might feel good. You enjoy spending time together, conversations flow easily. There's attraction, curiosity, and potential. But then something changes. You start noticing doubts. Small things begin to bother you. The way they text, the way they express affection, the way they talk about the future. Suddenly you feel unsure. You tell yourself maybe this person just isn't right for you. Maybe the connection isn't strong enough. Maybe the chemistry isn't there. But what if those doubts aren't about compatibility at all? What if they're actually about fear? Real incompatibility and fear of intimacy can feel surprisingly similar. Both create hesitation. Both create doubt. Both can make you feel like something isn't quite right. But the source of that feeling is very different. Real incompatibility usually shows up as a consistent mismatch in values, life direction, or emotional needs. You might want different lifestyles, different priorities, or different ways of communicating. These differences tend to feel clear and steady over time. They don't disappear when things feel safe or calm. Fear, on the other hand, usually appears when emotional closeness increases. Everything feels fine at first, but the closer the relationship becomes, the more uncomfortable you start to feel. When someone becomes more emotionally available, when they show consistency, when they start caring about you in a real and steady way, your mind suddenly starts questioning everything. This happens because intimacy activates vulnerability. And vulnerability can feel threatening if your nervous system associates closeness with risk. Many people grow up learning that emotional safety is unpredictable. Maybe affection came and went. Maybe emotions were criticized, ignored, or overwhelming. When that happens, the brain adapts by creating protection strategies. One of the most common strategies is distance. If you keep emotional space between yourself and others, you reduce the risk of being hurt. But that strategy can follow you into adult relationships. When someone genuinely wants to be close to you, your brain might interpret that closeness as danger rather than comfort. So instead of leaning in, you lean away. You might start focusing on their flaws. Things that once seemed small suddenly feel important. You question the connection. You tell yourself you just don't feel the spark anymore. But sometimes the spark didn't disappear. The anxiety did. Early attraction often feels intense because uncertainty activates dopamine. When you don't know where you stand, your brain stays alert and engaged. But healthy relationships gradually replace uncertainty with stability. The emotional highs and lows calm down. The relationship becomes more predictable. For many people, this calm feeling gets misinterpreted as boredom or lack of chemistry. In reality, it's emotional safety. But if your brain has learned to associate excitement with unpredictability, stability can feel strange. You may start believing something is missing, even when the relationship is actually healthy. Another sign that fear might be involved is when your doubts appear suddenly after the relationship becomes more serious. Maybe things felt natural and easy in the beginning, but when your partner starts expressing deeper feelings, talking about commitment, or showing consistent affection, your mind begins searching for reasons to create distance. You may think you're being logical or realistic, but the timing of the doubts matters. If uncertainty appears exactly when emotional closeness increases, it may not be incompatibility at all. It may be your nervous system reacting to vulnerability. True incompatibility usually feels steady rather than reactive. You notice patterns that consistently don't work between you. Your values clash in meaningful ways. Your communication styles repeatedly create conflict that doesn't improve over time. Fear-based distance feels different. It often appears as sudden emotional withdrawal, overanalyzing small details, or feeling overwhelmed by someone's genuine affection. Another clue is how you feel when you imagine losing the person. If the relationship ended, would you feel relief because your values genuinely didn't align? Or would you feel regret because you pushed away something meaningful? Fear often creates a cycle where you leave relationships that could have grown into something healthy, only to realize later that the problem wasn't incompatibility, it was vulnerability. This doesn't mean every doubt is fear. Sometimes people truly are incompatible. Healthy relationships require shared values, mutual respect, emotional support, and aligned life direction. Ignoring real incompatibilities can create long-term frustration and conflict. The key difference is awareness. When fear is involved, the discomfort usually centers around closeness itself rather than specific life differences. You might feel overwhelmed when someone cares about you deeply. You might struggle to trust that stability will last. You might worry that if you let yourself fully open up, you'll lose control of your independence or emotional safety. Recognizing this pattern is the first step toward breaking it. Instead of immediately assuming a relationship isn't right, pause and ask yourself a few honest questions. Are my doubts based on consistent incompatibilities, or did they appear when the relationship started becoming emotionally real? Am I uncomfortable with this person specifically, or with the vulnerability that closeness requires? Do I feel calm and respected around them, or constantly anxious and uncertain? Healthy relationships usually feel steady, supportive, and emotionally safe. They don't rely on confusion or emotional roller coasters to feel exciting. Sometimes what people call chemistry is actually anxiety mixed with attraction. And sometimes what people call boring is actually stability. Learning to recognize that difference can completely change how you experience relationships. Instead of running from closeness, you begin to understand your reactions. You notice when fear is influencing your decisions, and you give yourself the chance to explore connection without immediately pushing it away. Intimacy always involves some level of risk. Being known by another person means allowing them to see parts of you that feel vulnerable. But that vulnerability is also what creates real connection. When you learn to tolerate the discomfort of emotional closeness, you open the door to relationships that feel stable, supportive, and genuine rather than chaotic or confusing. The next time you start questioning a relationship, pause before pulling away. Ask yourself whether the discomfort comes from true incompatibility or from the unfamiliar feeling of being emotionally seen. Sometimes the difference between losing someone and building something meaningful is simply understanding the fear behind the doubt. And if this made you think about your own relationships, you're definitely not alone. Understanding human behavior and our own emotional patterns can completely change the way we experience love, connection, and closeness. If you enjoy exploring the psychology behind relationships and the hidden reasons we think, feel, and act the way we do, make sure to subscribe to the channel. There are many more videos coming where we break down the psychology of attachment, attraction, overthinking, and emotional patterns most people never talk about. And if this topic resonated with you, let me know in the comments. Do you think your doubts in relationships come from real incompatibility or from fear of intimacy? I'd be really curious to hear your perspective. Bye.